Grandmaster Divya Deshmukh arrives to her game against Daniil Yuffa at the Prague Challengers 2026. This is the second round. Divya drew a winning position in round 1 against the top seed Benjamin Gledura, and there you have Daniil Yuffa, another 2600 plus GM. So Divya definitely having strong opponents, just the kind of practice she needs before the candidates tournament. And the clock begins. Let's see what Divya opens with. She plays her pawn to d4. And Daniil responds back with knight to f6. Divya brings a pawn to c4. One of the things that is really amazing about Divya is her opening preparation. She did mention after becoming a grandmaster that Hungarian GM Csaba Balog helps her as a trainer, and I wonder if that's still he's still her coach. You have the Nimzo Indian on the board. E3 played the Rubinstein system, and here black castles. And Divya brings her bishop to d3, the main line. You then bring your knight out to f3 and white castles. This is how normally the games continue. Rook e8 played. One of the ideas of this move is to make a square for the bishop on f8 whenever it's attacked. And so let's see if this move surprises Divya. Not really. She quickly brings her knight out to f3. Well prepared she is. And now bishop takes c3, taken here by Daniil. This is not the main move here, but of course Divya will quickly recapture. B takes c3, taken. And now pawn to d6. So black has a very simple strategy. Double the pawns, put the pawns on the opposite color of the remaining bishop. Castles by Divya. She's speeding the moves, she's not thinking. That's amazing. This is her prep. E5 played. Now the big threat is e4. But e4 played by Divya herself. She knows this opening. Bishop g4, because you know what? Black can actually win a pawn here. Takes, knight e4. But after rook e1, white has excellent compensation. And this is something that Divya knew. And now h3 played. Just incredible play by Divya Deshmukh there in the opening. To know this, I checked the database. Daniil Yuffa hasn't played this before with black pieces. Bishop h5, and Divya looks a bit surprised there. Now, first things, she gets a rook to e1, defending the pawn on e4. This pin she can break with g4 at the right time. And h6 played by black. Stopping any bishop g5 ideas. And is Divya going to go g4? No, first she plays rook b1, improving the position of her rook. b6 played here. And now, what is the way in which you can fight for an edge? Rook b2. Wow. What a move. Trying to switch over the rook to the e or the d file. Knight comes to d7. And maybe now g4. But she goes rook e3. Another very useful move. You have pawn to c6 played. And rook be2 was possible, but first she goes queen e1. In some ways this seems like an inaccuracy, because now Daniil can take on f3, which is a very good move. Divya must take back with the rook, because taking with the pawn would really break her structure. So pawn takes and knight h5 is just game over. So rook takes f3, and now the rook is standing opposite the queen. I am pretty sure that Divya has considered this, but somehow after rook f3, now this move d5 is incredibly strong, and that's what happens. You can't take ed, by the way. E4 is just losing material. So rook e2 is what was Divya's main idea behind playing this. But Daniil Yuffa now takes on e4, pawn takes pawn, bishop takes pawn, knight takes e4, rook takes e4, and if you look at this position, it does feel like white has something to play with, because structurally white's double pawns are now gone. The bishop can come to b2, d5 is possible, but somehow white's pieces are not very well organized, and that's the problem here. So take on e8, queen takes. You can take the queen, but rook e3 is a more fighting move. And what Divya would like to do now is just play bishop b2 next and claim that she's slightly better, because she has the open e file. Her bishop is pretty good. She could potentially play d5. So definitely something's going her way here. But I think Daniil Yuffa can just go rook e8. I think that's the final equalizer. Once you play rook e8, yes, then you exchange and trade the final major piece here, and this definitely equalizes things. So d5 played, rook takes rook, queen takes, and now pawn takes pawn. And I guess Divya needs to liquidate this, or she can try a little bit with queen g3 trying to attack here, but she says okay, I'm happy with equality. Takes here, check, and now king f8. She takes on d5, giving up her pawn on d5, but if Daniil takes here, there's check. He takes it, by the way. Check on b8 and take on a7, and that is just all even. Well, I must say that although this game fizzled out into equality, the way in which Divya played was quite inspiring, because in a way she knew her opening, she had fresh idea there, even in a sideline, this rook b2, rook e2 stuff, and that just goes to show her level of preparation and some very serious work that she's putting in on her chess. And even if the candidates goes her way or not, it's surely helping her to become a strong player. Queen d4, I believe the players will make a couple of more moves before agreeing to a draw. Check, king h2, another check, pawn to g3, And now with queen d4, Divya plays her king to g2, and I think well, what to do now? There's nothing much to play here. The players agree to a draw, and yeah, Divya moves to 1 out of 2, facing two 2600 plus players. It's very interesting to see how this tournament pans out for her. She's definitely way stronger than last time, where she had several losses, and you know, you can already see her stability as a player, and you can see c5 and 98 is what Divya is talking about, and analyzing with her opponent to get some thoughts in. I think that's always a good habit. So we'll continue to follow her games in this tournament. Another Indian who's playing in the Challengers is Surya Ganguly. He lost his first game to Thomas Bjergsen, but in the second one he drew with Jonas Bier. Wishing Surya the best as well.